garbage that I haven't answered.
Okay, we'll call this meeting to order at 7 o'clock. First thing, adoption of agenda. Any comments? Somebody gonna move by
move to
Councillor
adopt.
Schultz? Any comments or anything? All in favor? Carried? Okay. Organizational meeting. October 22nd, 2018. I thought we did this already.
Mhm.
Oh, this is just minutes.
This is
sorry.
just
Confirming.
adopted
Yeah.
or accepted
I
minutes.
didn't read all the way. Somebody would like to move to, just like that, huh?
Just like that.
Councillor Cutler. Any questions on it?
Everything looks good.
No?
No,
We're all
good.
All in favor? Carried. Minutes from regular meeting, October 22nd. Any questions? Motion?
Nope, all look good. I make the motion to accept the minutes as presented.
Councillor Zimmer.
Thank you, Mr. Zimmer.
All in favor? Carried, man, we're just flying. Delegation. Clerks from RCMP Detachment Sergeant Greg
Standard.
Standard. There you are.
How you guys doing?
Good.
How do you?
Good. So I started sending out that, I think I only got one of them out as far as the, some stats basically that's been going on there. So I don't know if you guys had a chance to see them. And if you have any questions on that, my biggest thing from that alone is that nothing's going crazy, nothing's going down, but it's kind of holding its own as far as our crime stats in the town of Clarksville anyway. A couple things I just wanted to mention, and I made a couple notes here today just briefly about that. One of the things that, and you may have seen just recently, there was the list of the most dangerous cities in Canada, and a few of them were in Alberta.
Seven.
Yeah, they weren't Claresholm, was the point I was going to make. So just to show you the kind of the numbers, like what Tascone was at, and I didn't write it down, it was like 270 was the crime severity index. Right here in Claresholm is 75, so it just kind of gives you an idea the difference of what you're seeing from the worst to us, which are, I couldn't find a ranking with all the smaller detachment sizes. They mostly only had municipal, but so that's a big difference compared to the province. Provincial average is 110.1, and we're again 75.8. So that's to me that's good news. Things are not too ugly here, kind of thing. Of course, there's still stuff out there, and some of the things that we're seeing right now, without saying a whole lot about some investigations that are going on right now, we have some good drug stuff that's going to be hopefully working its way through and maybe get some decent charges, and some things are not too ugly here, kind of thing. Of course, there's still stuff out there, and some of the things that we're seeing right now. But other than that, it's kind of the only things I really had. I know we have some good wanted to mention to you, and if there's any questions, of course, hopefully working its way through and maybe get some decent charges, and some things are not too ugly here, kind of thing. Of course, there's still stuff out there, and some of the things that we're seeing. I don't think I had anything else. Let me just see what else I printed up. I have to have my 1 minute's way through, and if I make it, maybe get some. No, that's all I had. This was just some more of the stats and showing our 2 ugly here. If you have any questions, I don't know.
You guys have any
I
questions?
think that we're seeing.
Lloyd.
I don't think I had anything else. I want to see what else I printed up. I was back and forth making no, that's all I had. This was just some more of the stats showing our 2 for what. But of course, they do the maintenance part of it because of the highway. I don't think I had anything else. I want to see what else I printed up. I was back and forth making no, that's all I had. This was just some more of the stats for what. But it's good to change. They do the maintenance part of it because of the highway. I don't think I had anything else. I want to see what else I printed up. That's fine. One morning I was back and forth making no, that's all I had. This was just some more of the stats sort of for what. But it's good to change. They do the traffic part of it because of the highway. I don't think I had anything else. I want to see what else I printed up. One morning I was back and forth making What I did notice. No, that's all I had. This was just still trying to get this just sort of see but it's good. What do you do? Your job for no, that's all I had. This was just still trying to get this but it's good. What do you do? Your job once it does turn red, south or northbound, that there's a little bit of a pause before it goes green crossways. And they're right on board with it. And he told me that, and I just talked to him today, in fact, and I can't think of his name right now, from Alberta Transportation, wants to talk to me directly about it, but they'll do something. Now, one of the things that they mentioned that I can't speak for exactly till I talk to him, but he said that if they do it as a service call, somebody has to pay this, like I think he said $600 or something to make the adjustment. But if they wait till the next time the maintenance is done, they can do it. So I'll wait till I talk to him, get a little bit more information before I present that to you, obviously, and see what your thoughts are. But worst case scenario, it's not the end of the world. Best case scenario, it's the next service and it doesn't cost anything, kind of deal. So, but I'll keep you up to date on
Yeah,
that.
find out what it costs, 'cause if it's $600, and we certainly could talk about that.
Yeah, and like I said, I'm not going to put you in a place or anything that it's going to be kind of out of my hands. That'll be put you guys back in touch with them, sort of deal to get it organized. But if it's something that they're going to do in the next month or something, anyways, they can probably wait a month and save the money. I don't know, but I'll leave that with you guys. But once I get some more information, I tried to get hold of him before the end of the day here, but he didn't call me back. So I played a little bit of phone tag over last month with them, but it's coming, and hopefully that I think will help a lot. Just in that fact, I only stopped when I sat there. I think I saw you that morning. I'm not sure if I did or not, but I stopped only one big truck there, and I didn't give him a ticket because he was in the intersection when it was yellow, but because he's not going real fast, it was red and green, and he wasn't even across it yet, but it's a big long truck, right? So I had a chat with him, and he had excuses like most people do, and at the end of the day, it was kind of like, that light is so far, you can see it from just about Nanton, so why do you need to take the chances? It's going to turn yellow eventually, but and he agreed, he was good, but it's just kind of trying to get his perspective as the trucks and why they're doing it. Of course, it's morning and they're not seeing the cars crossing, so they're that's kind of thing it was. But anyway, that's got some information for me so that I could at least share that with them, because they're not sitting out there at 6 o'clock in the morning either. So anyway, that's all I have on that. And I almost forgot it. Thanks for reminding me about that. So
Yeah, that's good information.
I can't remember the time. I know Grant, one of the fellow officers in town one morning, was mentioning that our yellow light was really short. I can't remember what number he had.
yeah,
But he timed the yellow light and he figured it was extremely short to any other posting that he's been at.
yeah. I didn't time it because I just kind of went by the feel of it, and it just seemed to me that it was fairly quick for yes, it's a 50 zone, but it is still the highway, and the guys are doing a little bit more than that all the time. So
Yeah, we usually do more than 50.
yeah, but you'd be surprised it's not as fast as it looks. So those big trucks, they appear to be going so
Yeah,
fast,
that's true.
and there's a
I cross at that light every day,
Yeah.
a couple of times a day. They're hauling through there.
Yeah.
They're hauling through there.
Some
Lots of
are.
times I see them hauling through there.
Yeah.
There's no way they're anywhere near 50.
but they're not as high. I won't say the ones that I sat there and watched, and they look fast, but they're doing 65, 70, the fastest ones, and that looks like they're flying.
Oh, 70
being-
But that
70 is
65 is fast in town.
It is. There's no question. But I know what you're saying. But it's got to be a little bit of leeway sometimes too, because if I rate everybody a 55 kilometer an hour speeding ticket, I'll be in court all the time.
Oh.
Totally-
Do you know what I
totally
mean? And that's
respect
kind of
that.
the
I get
thing,
that.
right? So that's sort of that's.
But if they're seeing the light from so far away,
exactly, and that's
60
kind of my
in town
point.
isn't really necessary.
But if we can do stuff to make it better without having to have somebody there, is my
The
whole
guys
idea.
you talked to, were they the regional directors for or were they just in you remember the name of
I know it's on a sticky note, but I don't know if it's either.
Darren?
Darren?
What was the other?
And they had people out right after we met with them.
They did?
Rick,
Oh,
that's who from Alberta Transportation that I have.
in the regional office.
Yeah, somebody out of the office then.
Yeah.
No, we met with them last month, and they were, actually it was much before. They were responsive. That's why those signs are up right now. They're doing a study
Yeah.
to see about our speeds in town. and-
Okay. Yeah. Well, that's good. And I mean, coming from every direction, maybe they'll do something eventually, right? So
Yeah.
I think
That's
if
great.
only one person complains, whether it's the town or the police or somebody in
Yeah.
the public, it's not going to go a long ways. But when they kind of start
With
to
everybody.
feel it from different directions, maybe it'll help a
Yeah.
lot. So
And if you can get the information, like when they would do it on their regular routine,
Yeah,
and or how much it would cost. I mean, that's, at least we could look at that,
yeah, that sounds good. Like I said, I'll just keep you up to date once I know.
because it definitely would help.
Yeah. Good.
That sounds like a really solid solution, you know, if we can't do anything major, but at least offer more timing at those lights, because you're right, they do
Everything
switch
else,
really quickly.
Especially that pause would probably help a little bit.
Mhm.
Yeah. the
Because
positive.
people that don't know about that intersection, that's the ones I worry about, that'll charge out there.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Locals know not to rush into that
Yeah,
intersection.
exactly. And those trucks, some of them are, you know, those big long trucks, they're so long that
Mhm, they
even
can't stop.
even at the speed limit and paying attention, that light turns yellow.
Yeah.
If they decide to go through because they can't stop, they're gonna be red by the time they get back into that trailer through there, so,
For sure.
you know, it's,
Yeah, those aren't
It's
the
when
ones
it's
I
red and they're
personally
coming
worry
through.
about.
That's
That,
what it- that's what
I
it
find
is,
it
yeah.
very.
I worry about the ones that I see going in front of me are the ones that, it's been red for 3-4 seconds, and then they go through.
Right.
yeah.
I mean, they, like you say, they can see from 2 blocks back. They know
Yeah.
they're gonna.
Oh, I know, and that's what I kinda got from them too, but,
I had a customer come in and complain a few weeks back anyways, and they had mentioned the name of the company, and we looked at the security footage, and the one went through on the red, another one followed through about 3 seconds behind,
oh wow.
and I actually forwarded the security camera footage to the company.
Oh.
The owner asked for
Excellent.
it.
Yeah.
And I said, these are some of the complaints that we receive within town. So he dealt with it internally, but it's,
You know what my experience with trucking companies, generally they can be a lot more, especially the bigger ones, they can be a lot more harsh to their drivers than what I can be,
Right.
kind
Yeah,
of thing.
for sure.
And like some of these guys lose their jobs for this stuff, which maybe is a little extreme if it's one thing only, but they, you know what I mean, the companies have a lot of power and a lot more weight. I mean, your job is worth
Indeed.
a lot, your $200 ticket's worth $200, kind of thing, right? So-
Exactly.
That's right.
So yeah, that's good. That's actually a really good thing too. So.
Cool beans.
How about with the legalization of cannabis? Is there anything unusual?
It's legal.
I know, but like public consumption
Do you know-
now?
do you know, to be
Is
honest-
there complaints?
To be honest, we haven't had any complaints, and I don't know if there's any come through the town side of it.
No Armageddon.
No, the world didn't end, as I kind of thought it was going to. No, actually, it's kind of one of those things that it doesn't change. The people, this is just my opinion, this is not any statistics with it, but the people that were using it are using it. They were using it before, they're using it today, they're kind of thing. And maybe if there was some stats, I would suggest there's probably a little spike in use just for that, you know, being able
For
to
a week
do
or
it in
two.
public and kind of thing. But I mean, personally, I'm not a fan of it, but that's not the RCMP's opinion, obviously. We just go with what the law is. But no, I haven't, as far as this town goes, I haven't seen any different. I haven't talked to anybody, had any issues. We haven't had any, you know, people be blatant or anything in front of us. So
Cool.
it's still pretty early.
Well, it seemed to be anticlimactic. There was no,
Yeah,
the world didn't change, and
yeah, and I haven't heard a lot from outside, but you know, like from just the regular news, I haven't really heard much either. I mean, the biggest news that I could see was the global helicopter flying around the stores in the cities, but I mean that was then the first day of opening. But really, I didn't see the excitement otherwise. So
oh, that's
Cool
good.
beans.
Well, any other questions?
golden. Excellent.
Well,
Good.
sure, thank you for
No problem.
coming.
Yeah,
We
like the
appreciate
updates.
any time you.
Yeah, and I'll kind of every once in a while sort of schedule, but if you guys ever have some information or want to hear something from me, like I'm pretty available. It's only curling once a week now. So.
So don't
All right.
be curling.
All right,
Cool.
thank
Thanks a
you.
lot.
Thank you very much, guys.
All
Thank
right,
you.
thank you. Okay, move on to bylaw 1652, land use bylaw amendment, first reading. Marion, you've got a little something on this?
Yes, so the amending bylaw is for the land use bylaw to bring some of the regulations that were changed under the new Municipal Government Act into compliance. So there's a number of changes you would have seen there, some strike-throughs as well as some changes made in red. Just as a bit of an overview, we changed deadlines for appeals, and when those, actually when development permits are deemed to be complete, appeals can now be received within 21 days versus it used to be 14 days. The development department also has only 20 days to deem whether an application is complete or not and to notify the applicant. We had amendments adding electronic notification and changes in uses from discretionary to permitted for things like security fences in industrial zones, adding clarity for solar move to permitted use for wall or roof mounted. Shipping containers were added to districts that were forgotten in the last amendment, and a number of adjustments to formatting and page numbering, etc. These amendments not only to bring us into compliance with the Municipal Government Act, but we also feel that they will help to streamline some of the development processes, which is in line with Council's strategic planning priorities for us. So the bylaw is before you tonight for first reading. Prior to second and third reading, there will be a public hearing and where comments can be made.
Okay, somebody like to move first reading?
I'll move first reading.
Councilor
1652.
Schlossberger. Any comments or anything? You're gonna wait for the second reading?
I've just got one comment. Under subdivision, the heading to decision, where it said, now it may be just the way I'm reading it, where it says all applications for subdivision approval shall be evaluated by the town in accordance with the following criteria. Isn't that where we should have our, and I know all this fits into the area structure plan, but because we mentioned the area structure plan everywhere else, should we not mention it?
Okay, can
Under
you
there
just
as well?
tell me which clause you're quoting here, sorry?
Under decision number 8.
Number 8, all statutory, in accordance with,
Okay.
well, compliance with statutory plans, that would be, statutory plans would include.
But
area
because we
structure.
use area structure plan everywhere else and we talk in all of our literature,
Right. The mayor is correct, though an area structure plan is considered a statutory plan, so it would be covered
oh, okay,
under that definition.
perfect,
But there's other plans also that would be required in here, water study
Okay.
plan, and
perfect.
so statutory plans is a group of plans.
Okay.
Anything else?
Nope.
Question, please.
Moved by Councillor Schlossberger to give bylaw number 1652, a land use bylaw amendment, first reading.
All in favor? Carried. Number 2, correspondence, the Honorable Shay Anderson, Minister of Municipal Affairs. It is the approval for 4 of our projects under the MSI. This is
Good news.
information only. There's nothing to, it's just for your information. These were stuff we talked about and we applied for, and they fit within the criteria, so
That's
this is
great.
just a letter.
So this is all good news.
It's all good news. Just agreeing with everything we applied for.
And then, yeah, so it just works better for our budget that we were getting this stuff.
Just for clarification, these are projects for 2018 that have been completed. We're just getting our final notification on the capital grant
That you're getting
Gotcha.
it.
approval.
Yeah.
They were all budgeted for, you
Right.
were correct, yeah. Number 3, Community Energy Association site selection. Now this is coming from Southwest. This is an organization that is putting these electric charging stations throughout Southern Alberta. Brad, your committee endorsed this, and brought it
Yep.
forward.
Yep.
Anything you want to say on it?
Pincher Creek, Fort McLeod, Clarsum, and have been selected.
So is this the same station in Fort McLeod that's already
No.
there?
No.
That's a totally different.
That's
But that's what it is.
Yes.
Like that's what
Mhm.
the idea is. So I
Same
can wrap my head
concept,
around it.
just a
Okay.
different.
one thing. If you read through the information, they've got suggested sites, and one of the criteria in the suggested sites is that we own the property. But now this is maybe a little. I think I briefly mentioned it to Marion. something that we could think about is perhaps we talked about doing a rest stop, expanding a rest stop. So the old turbo station, the old Texaco site, that area down there, if we were to be able to lease it and talk to the governing body and see if that would, if we could work that into the system, I think it's twofold.
Mm-hmm.
We give somewhere for people coming through town to stop and encourage them to come and wander around town while their vehicle's charging up. The other thing is, if we do this, a rest stop there, like we talked about it in the past, we could put one of those portable washrooms in there, a self-contained washroom, and I'm not talking an outhouse, but Fort McLeod's got one in their new playground. It's self-contained, it's got a small reservoir under there that's pumped out. Because you can't develop that land without,
Right.
You can't go into that land without first doing environmentals.
Right.
But if it's
This
something
wouldn't
that,
require that.
if it would be possible for us to direct administration to look into the feasibility of this, I'm just throwing it out there, just something I've been thinking about.
I don't know very much about electric cars, and I don't know anything about the Tesla charging station, how much it's utilized. Is that,
Well, it's not, and that's where I'm throwing this out there. This gives us an opportunity to get people to stop. If we have a rest stop area of the washroom, they're gonna stop.
very true. So where's the turbo, which
Right
one?
between, Cal
Just
Tire,
past Clay's.
yeah, past,
South.
yeah.
Okay.
On the east side.
Now, I don't know if it's feasible, I'm just throwing it out.
Yeah.
That's the exact same thought I had this afternoon, was that turbo area, because by the sounds of it, they don't have to dig a lot, because they're up and running in 7 days or something, they said. So it's not a bunch of
We'd have to
groundwork.
provide power to the site.
Right.
But we also have a utility corridor in the back that we could use. Marion's looking at me like, where'd this come from?
No,
Well, and
I'm
it makes our
just
highway
taking it
more
on.
friendly to be
Well,
able to
of the
I
three
would
options,
right?
I agree that we should at least explore
Yeah.
that possibility.
because the three options they had, they were either small or in a roundabout, because they wanted the
It's
one
a
on
little
Second Ave.
crowded.
And they've already got
Keith's
enough parking
restaurant.
problems over at the museum.
Yeah, no kidding.
Well, in the off-season, the museum spot would work perfect.
Mm-hmm.
But in the busy times, when people are actually visiting our museum and tourists are coming
Meeting
through,
at Roy's.
it's not gonna work very well.
Well, it's kind of
There's no
interesting, because I read it, but there's stage 1, 2, and 3, right? The 3 one is a quick 30-minute charge, then there's a 4 to 6 hour, and then there's a 20-hour charge or something type of thing, right? And will we gauge for a site 2? Or does it have different pumps or
No,
different
I
stages?
don't
Phase
think we
one.
get to do that selection, I think that's.
Oh,
They
okay.
have us in
See,
as a
that's-
phase 1. Or the red dot, phase 1, so we would fall under the 40 to 50 hour.
See, that's
Yeah.
not how I read that map. Okay.
Well, and that's the other thing, we could invite
that's how I
Southwest
read it.
to come and give a presentation on it.
Yep. We're meeting here, the next meeting's in Clarkson.
So, I'm just throwing it out there, so some direction from the council, what do you guys think?
I would love to hear from them. I'd be really curious. to hear
And
their
when are they
vision.
meeting in
Or does
Clarkson?
that feel?
December 12th.
Mind you, we'd have to do it on a regular council meeting for them to, so, that's the
I
19th.
don't know. Yeah, more info would be great.
Yeah.
I don't think people are gonna, you're gonna have people crossing the highway all the time there. I don't
Well,
think
see,
a
that's
good
the other
spot.
access part.
Right,
It's the only
nobody's gonna-
spot that,
It is.
Yeah,
it's
but nobody's gonna walk
possible to
down
do
to the
this.
lights.
well,
They can walk down the Shell, it's only a block that way. We got a crosswalk there.
Well, it's a better option than the
Well-
three they.
Well, yeah,
presented.
in behind the
it's better
museum
option
stuff
than
is
having
weird.
stop in Grantham or Stately.
No, I know,
Because
but,
that's the other,
Right.
we have no other areas there.
well, I'm for it, I just don't think the turbo spot's a,
Unless it goes down by the way station on that CP.
But that's that's further.
And there's
Away from
nowhere.
town, away from town, yeah.
What about at the new multipurpose building? Wouldn't there be? Couldn't there potentially be a natural? Since we want that to be a landing spot, anyways. Is that a potential? Could it be
Which?
at the new multi-use building?
Turn part of it
Because
back
we're going to
as a-
be naturally
Yeah,
creating
that's-
green space.
That goes along with the same thing, we could That's a very good idea.
And then it's not so you walk to the gas station, you can, it's more
Easier access
accessible
downtown.
things rather than just being right there.
From both sides of the highway.
I
too.
like that too.
It's more amenable.
I just think there's an opportunity here we should try and expand on.
Oh,
a
for
little
sure.
bit, You know. so
And when are
throwing
they
out some
looking to
ideas.
go in?
They wanted like,
Soon.
yeah, June.
One in the fall here, I thought.
Well,
And it's
We
being
talked about
Could be
putting
far
parking at the
No,
multi-use
fall,
building for
yeah.
trailers and stuff, so this would,
Deploy
if we
both
can
of those.
incorporate it,
Yeah.
we don't have we don't have a plan for the land
The green space,
around
yeah.
the building as of this.
but that would certainly tie in with it, and what a great way to
It's something to look at.
Mhm.
Stop there.
Yeah, pulling behind by the gas station.
So maybe
pulling
can
in
we
the backyard.
ask them to come to next council and just give a brief overview, and in the meantime, have administration look into a couple of options? What do you guys think?
Yes, I would like, I'd be interested in more information.
And we don't need a motion for that, we'll just leave it with Marion and. Okay, so we move on and we'll carry this over to the next council meeting. Hopefully have a delegation here. Okay, number 4, Alberta Municipal Affairs. Bill 23, renewing local democracy in Alberta. This is some of the change to the rules for elections. Marion, you've got an overview on this.
Yeah, so Bill 23 was tabled in the legislature on November 5th, and it's a bill basically dealing with elections and rules around municipal elections, and they're trying to create those rules to be more in line with the provincial regulations. So under the proposed legislation, contributors can donate up to $4,000 province-wide for municipal elections. Corporate and union donations have been banned. Campaign periods are reduced to 1 year. Candidate spending limits would be determined by regulation as well as the size of the municipality. So as I said, it was just tabled in the legislature, but the legislation was built around, if you recall, in the summer, there was some public consultation around local elections. The next piece of document on the in the agenda package is some correspondence from AUMA as well around Bill 23, and they're quite pleased with it. They say it generally reflects their input into that public consultation process, and they're glad to see that they're sort of aligning those rules more with the provincial legislation as well.
And then next, was there any discussion on that? Anybody want to throw any comments in? Because we've got their bill, we've got AUMA stamps, so. Okay, we'll take it for information. Correspondence, Tanya Thorne, Director, Town South AUMA. That's an update. Again, taken for information.
But there is just one request in that related to cannabis and the funding that is around cannabis. And as you're aware, the province announced how they would be distributing that funding that's coming down from tax revenue from the federal government. But it's only going to grant funding for municipalities that have a population over 5,000. So AUMA is asking for council to consider writing letters to the MLA or the MP on that issue, asking for that funding to be more evenly distributed to the local municipalities rather than the province keeping the lion's share of that funding.
So do we need to make a motion to, or to seek administration to move forward with pressuring them with letters for our community? Do we write them individually as councillors? How does that work, Mr. Mayor?
Well, if you make a recommendation, we will direct administration to
Okay.
draft a letter and send it supporting changes to the distribution of funds.
Okay.
that what you're doing?
Do we
That's
know
what
when
I'd
that,
like to do.
do we know when that meeting is in November?
Sorry.
That meeting, it says, the meeting in November, she'll be attending the IACF IDP workshop meeting being held for municipal affairs. She wanted that letter before she went to that meeting.
I don't know the date on
It
that.
doesn't give a date in here, and this is the earliest we can get the letter,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, I was just wondering if it was worth.
So, there's been a motion made by Councillor Schultz to draft a letter of support for changing the funding for communities under 5,000.
Thank you.
The wording I didn't catch, so I'm sure Corinne's got it.
Do you want one to go the MLA as well as the MP? There's 2 sample letters that the AUMA's
Yeah,
provided.
there's 2 drafts.
Yes, please.
Change the funding for cannabis. What is it for?
Just the distribution tax revenue,
To change the funding for distribution
distribution
of tax revenue
tax revenue
from
on cannabis.
it's under 5,000. And direct them to, direct the letters to both the MLA and the MP. Oops. To draft administration. Okay. Administration to draft letter. Okay, all right, so I've got something ready.
In that, could you also include a CC to AUMA, Jackie Sargent? Just so she's aware that we sent a letter of support.
You want the CC, sorry, to go to Tanya Thorne, our
Well,
South
for
rep.
more information, the communication advisor. I'm not sure which one.
I would s-
AUMA, the appropriate.
Yeah, I think to Tanya, just to AUMA.
Okay.
CC to AUMA is sufficient, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they've got both names, one page has the other. So I'm not sure which one, but AUMA should get a copy of this so they know we supported and sent the appropriate letters.
Okay, all right.
Okay, question please.
Moved by Councillor Schultz to direct administration to draft a letter of support towards changing the funding for the distribution of tax revenue from cannabis regarding communities under 5,000, and to direct a letter to both the MLA and MP and CC the AUMA so they are aware of their support.
Any
That's-
questions on that? All in favor? Carried. Next one. Highway 3 Twinning Development Association request for membership. We are all aware of this, Highway 3, Pinch Creek,
Yeah.
Lethbridge.
Sorry.
I guess this is where I would say personally that for us to spend $940 or $945 based on a per capita, I don't see a benefit to Clearsome.
Yeah, I thought we had
So
sort
I'd
of.
like a little conversation on that. Like, do you feel the other direction, or what do you guys?
I felt the same. I just think in the spirit of cooperation between municipalities, towns.
So what's the 900
Because
some
if
dollars
they
go
want,
for?
if we want
Just
their
their membership.
support
Yeah, it's true.
Moving
for
forward,
something,
for the bypass, maybe later on.
20 years.
But yeah, so
Way
it's just
later.
kind of that collaboration piece supportive.
Yeah, and it's $945, really.
Yeah, it's only $1,000.
That's- well, it's not.
Well, it's not that it's
Only
only $1,000, it is $1,000.
But for the,
But
for what it could create, is $1,000 too much for what it could create?
As a traveler that goes to Lethbridge, I like to see that twin too, so 25 cents per capita.
Per person,
Yeah.
right?
Well, it's not for us that there's 20, it's for, it's for
Well,
the
they're
big
basing
trucks,
it on-
for development of trucks, and it's for actually
Transportation.
it's transportation.
the
And it's
transportation.
for- It's the
When I go
McLeod
down the
West
path.
part they want to twin.
Right, sorry. You're
Do you
absolutely right.
think
That's what
that
I
they
meant.
will take out the train if that happens? Up there? That one will always
No,
be
the
there?
trains are, the trains that are leaving Alberta have left, they can't afford to take any more out.
I don't know what they do around. I think they're just.
That's a bad highway there.
Yeah.
Busy and windy and
Right.
icy.
But this isn't to improve, this is for transportation. So the question this raises, do we want a membership in an association that their goal is to twin the highway, the rest of the highway? Because the highway's already twinned from Fort McLeod to Lethbridge.
That's right.
It's the rest from the border. But
Doesn't
my
run
question
through
is, okay, you twin it to the border, you still got BC, which is a single lane, and they aren't gonna expand. So we're taking membership in something that dead ends at the border.
But it does expand within our own province.
It does, but is there a benefit to us? And I understand what Brad's coming from, that's a good point. So that's why I want some debate on this.
Well, I think that's why I'm
On the
leaning in
fence.
that direction. No, I'm leaning more in that direction. I think that if that's the mandate of the provincial government, if that's the mandate of our municipalities, is to be neighboring with our neighbors, creating goodwill with our
Right.
neighbors. And I don't know about you, I use that highway.
Yeah, with sports and stuff, it gets, our teams
It's-
go back and forth.
It's a crazy.
Because there's a stretch west of Medicine Hat that gets twin also.
Yeah, there's a stretch there also.
Mhm.
And I'm not sure if it goes that far or not.
Yeah, it goes, it's designed to
Straight
go
to the
straight
border?
from the hat, so it'll take care of the,
Border to border.
it'll take care of the hat through till.
Tabor.
Tabor,
No,
it's,
Bow Island.
Bow
no,
Island and
it's not,
Tabor.
it's not twin to Bow Island.
It's
so
twin to Tabor, isn't
It's
it?
twin to Tabor, and I'm thinking one community pass.
And then it goes
but
from there to no, it's 7 persons, it's twin.
Yeah,
It's about Bow Island where it's,
there's about an 80-kilometer stretch there where it's not twin.
well,
But they're not
Have we been-
west of Fort McLeod?
it's from
not-
Fort McLeod going west, it's all single, with
Yeah,
passing
but-
lanes.
I get it. Are they planning?
Well, that is the corridor, number
Yeah.
3 corridor.
Right.
Designed to go straight through to the pass.
Now,
So they
The
requested
trucks-
in 2016, and they haven't requested since then?
they have regular meetings, I'm invited to them every month. I have not attended.
Right, but we didn't have a membership with them in 2016
No,
when
we
they
have never
proposed
had a
it.
membership with
Never,
them.
so this would be new
They are
if we
asking
chose to do
again
it.
if we're interested at this time to join. Marion, you got anything to add?
Yeah. Not more, much more than what's already been said. The association has been in place for a number of years. Their mandate is basically advocacy to get the twinning of that highway completed. It's made up of member municipalities that see that there's an economic benefit to their communities for the twinning of that highway and the transportation corridor, so.
So But it's $1,000.
Well,
Yes.
and I understand the needs for it, and growing up on that highway, there's some dangerous spots and so on. But you can pay to advocate all you want at this time. The provincial budget is nowhere near in a position where it's going to happen.
Right.
I think it's throwing $1,000 at a wall right now. I support their cause. I don't think our $1,000 is put
Well
to
spent.
best use doing that.
Thank you.
I agree with that.
And it's just for a year, the membership? Or would it
Yeah,
be
every year
for-
they'll ask us.
Yeah.
This
So-
is an
So
on,
we could change our
this is
mind next year
ongoing,
for that.
year to year.
Provincial budget changes.
As much as I'd write letters in support for everything, it's.
Right.
No, appreciate your opinion.
And they've never asked for a letter of support or anything, just that I can recall.
Mhm.
But it's a membership that I feel for us at this time is no benefit.
Fair enough.
But that's just my feeling. I'm not telling you what to do. I wanna hear what you
Didn't think
guys-
you were, but I think it's good to just bat around ideas. My
Mhm.
opinion's changed multiple times.
Twice.
I'm really okay with not accepting membership.
Well, if nobody's willing to make a motion, then we just take this for information. We don't have to make a motion to decline that, no. So is anybody willing to make a motion, or are we gonna take it for information?
Take it for information.
Okay, we'll move on, taking that for information. Fort McLeod Santa Claus Parade, 37th Annual Santa Claus Parade.
Yes.
We're
Was,
scheduled, aren't we, to be in that?
Was Mel Lister interested in, he is willing?
Right on.
Perfect, so we are going in the parade. Anybody who wants to ride along with Mel, you can check in with him.
I'll wave at him.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
we don't, that's just taken for information again.
Yeah.
Claresholm Public Library, let me get to my page first. This is a letter from the Claresholm Public Library Board requesting funds for unexpected legal fees. They're a town facility, they're funded by the town. And they do need a little bit of expansion on their budget for legal fees to the tune of $1,400, I believe.
Well, the total is.
27.50.
Yeah, projected 14, actual balance secured 1350, so it's 2750.58. Any comments or motion or?
So they've accrued 1350 and they're looking for an additional 1400.
Yeah, they're not finished with it yet, so they need. And it is, I mean, it's a town facility, and so it is our mandate to. We're ultimately, it comes out of the town budget.
Do you want, can I make that motion?
You can.
Being on the library board, that we help them with their legal fees?
We're not helping them.
Or
We're-
taking care of
We're
their-
adding to their
To their budget?
budget.
Okay.
3,000?
Mary, well, Corinne will have it worded perfectly.
I don't. I didn't know what you were gonna say, so.
Okay, so because it's a town facility, you're adding into their budget for their legal fees.
Yeah, because it's not
Into
part
our
of the
budget
rate. We
too,
did
right?
it to ourselves, as you recall, when we went over budget.
Right, yeah, okay, so that's the same process.
Because you can't just allocate money. It's gotta come from somewhere. So you've got, the council has to
Right.
add it into the budget from the 2018 budget. Because it's a town facility. The town's responsible for the bills that occur.
They have their
But
own
it's-
governing board, but we financially support them.
Yeah.
They apply
Do
for
we
their
pay
own
the,
grants.
do we pay the library?
No, they
We don't pay
apply for
them?
their own grants and
Do we what?
We don't pay them? They're
We
not-
give them what they
A
are is an
running-
operational board.
Right.
So the MD and us give them money to operate with. Plus they get a grant from the provincial body, and that's what they run on.
So when I read this letter, I read it as a staffing issue.
I
Staffing?
don't think we get to
The
get into the
human
details.
rights allegation for mistreating, right?
Well, we can't talk about a human rights complaint.
Oh,
You didn't know.
That is simply what the legal fees are for.
the legal, okay,
Yeah.
I apologize. This letter here speaks to it. Gotcha.
Marion, you had something?
We just have the motion prepared.
Oh, you're ready. Okay, can we hear the motion and we'll talk, debate it if we need to anymore.
Moved by Councillor Moore to provide additional funding of up to $2,750 to the Claresholm Public Library to come from general operational reserves.
Any other questions or discussions or?
Well, not to be picky, should it be $2,750.58? No?
It's
Okay.
an estimate.
Just so the numbers match.
It's just an estimate.
Any other questions?
Nope.
Okay, we hear the question one more time.
Moved by Councillor Moore to provide additional funding of up to $2,750 to the Claresholm Public Library to come from general operational reserves.
All in favor? Carried. Number 10, the request for decision. Ad hoc committee for the Amundsen Park redesign. Marion, you must have a recommendation here.
So as part of our budget discussions, one of the items that came up was the redesign of Amundsen Park. And there appears to be a number of organizations within the community who have an interest in the park and seeing some different design criteria maybe take place there in the park. So the discussion at the FIPSI committee meeting was that perhaps there should be an ad hoc committee formed where there's representation from council, administration, as well as an invitation to groups in the community who may have an interest in seeing something specific for that park. So the suggestion is here for you tonight. Administration would recommend that you strike the ad hoc committee, and we would like you to appoint 1 or 2 members of council to that committee, and then we will look at getting interest from community organizations.
Okay,
You said that you wanted.
I'm gonna put myself on there, but rather than appoint one of you, is anybody jumping up and down?
I'd be
wanting to-
interested.
You want it?
Okay, there's 3,
But
4
no.
of them.
No, that's
Yeah,
okay.
it's
No,
okay.
that-
We
if
could
you-
do rock, paper, scissors.
No, if you, I can
No,
go right
it's
there
good
from
for
another
you.
avenue.
Get
No,
in there.
I can go there
Get
from
in
another
there.
avenue. So that's good.
Do you?
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
that's totally fine with me.
Yeah, you can run through Kinsman's.
Okay,
Yeah.
you guys have all jumped all over it, but I'm gonna throw this out there. I do know the structure and who I've assigned to the difference, and I'm going to maybe piss 3 people off, but
Go for
Mike
it.
did have a light load, whereas some of you guys have quite a heavy load. So I'd say between Mike and Gavin, you've got the most room for this, and both of you volunteered, so I think because I didn't have a lot of stuff to put you on initially, I think this would help
Yeah.
even out the load if I assigned you, so my recommendation would be to put Mike on there, if that's okay with you guys.
For sure.
Okay, I can't make a motion, but
I'll make that motion.
Councillor Carlson,
I make a motion to appoint Mr. Mike.
Councillor Cutler, and the mayor.
Okay.
Cool beans.
Question?
Moved by Councillor Carlson to strike the ad hoc committee for the redesign concept plan at Amundsen Park and appoint Mayor McPherson and Councillor Cutler to represent council as members of the committee.
All in favor? You just had to do that.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on. Request for decision, CPR land lease inquiry. Let me find it. Okay, Starling Auction is looking at leasing the railway right-of-way in behind the property that we discussed about him, where he has this auction. Marion, you got some stuff to add to this, don't you?
Sure. So the Municipal Planning Commission recently approved the permanent use of that site for the auctions. There's some conditions attached to that. So Starland Auctions has come to administration, requested that we consider leasing a portion of the CPR lands that we own adjacent to that facility just east of it for parking. They have been leasing land to the south, but that's a temporary solution, so they're looking for something a little more permanent. They were looking for a 2-year lease because of the conditions on the development permit. administration would suggest that we perhaps do a 1-year term and ensure that the conditions of that development permit are met. They would be required to maintain the area, fix any ruts or damage that may occur. They would be required to list the town as an additional insured on their insurance policy. Also we would suggest there be a requirement for adequate signage to direct the traffic for proper parking, and then that the access come from 2nd Street East at the south end of the property, so that we ensure that the access isn't coming across private property. And that may require some fencing or whatever may be needed to make sure that that happens, or staffing to make sure that traffic is directed appropriately. But that's our recommendation, is a 1-year term with some of those conditions attached. There was a draft lease agreement, I believe. I don't think we included it in the agenda package, but we have drafted an agreement and provided it to them for their feedback as well, so, under these terms.
Would there be a fee attached to it?
We're just suggesting $1 a year kind of thing.
But they have to maintain it, which would save the town money.
Yes.
Any comments, any questions?
And that's just strictly for parking only, right?
Strictly for parking, no permanent structures.
They're not allowed to offload and load and off there.
They usually put their fence back there, so, and street access is more, is a stipulation.
They may be loading or unloading off that property to move it into the auction site, but
okay.
they wouldn't be able to leave equipment or auction items on that site. It would be for parking.
Parking only.
Okay.
They're gonna take care of it.
If somebody's interested in making a motion?
I'll move to approve the lease agreement for the parking with Starling Auctions.
Question?
Moved by Councillor Zimmer to approve the lease agreement for parking with Starling Auctions for the land located at Lot 12, Block RL1, Plan RY8, effective November 14th, 2018, for a 1-year term.
All in favor? Carried. Request for decision, Joint Worksite Health and Safety Committee. Marion?
So as you're aware, the Alberta Occupational Health and Safety Act establishes the minimum standards for health and safety practices in Alberta workplaces. And the province undertook a review, and there was changes to the act that took effect on June 1st. There are a number of changes, but one that we're dealing with tonight is the requirement of the employer to establish what's called a Joint Worksite Health and Safety Committee. We currently have a Joint Health and Safety Committee in compliance with our QP agreement, and that committee has been in place for some time, but it had about 8 to 10 members on it. And so at the last meeting, there was representation from different departments, a balance between workers and management was kind of how it was all structured. But at the last meeting, we did an overview of the changes to the Occupational Health and Safety Act, and one of the recommendations that came forward was that we actually reduce the number of appointees on that down to 4 members, 2 from the employer and 2 from the QP representation. So we have the 2 appointees from QP Local 3023, and administration is recommending that council appoint Corinne Wilhock and Brady Schnell as the employer representatives on that committee.
Questions, feedback, motion?
Why Brady?
Just, he's non-union employee. We had one from administration, and we wanted one from sort of a different perspective in the organization. And he volunteered, and at the management meeting, that was part of the discussion as to getting a balance on that committee.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Any other questions? Anybody interested in the motion?
I'll make that motion.
Councillor Cutler. Question?
Moved by Councillor Cutler that the town of Clarisholm establish a joint Worksite Health and Safety Committee in compliance with the Alberta Occupational Health and Safety Act, and designate Randy Keller and Jillian Johnson as the workers appointed by QP Local 3023, and designate Corrine and Brady Schnell as the employer's representatives.
All in favor? Carried. 13, financial report, statement of operations. Any questions arising? Craig must have something.
Don't,
Gonna have some.
don't, I'm good this time, boys.
Are you sure?
Really? You sure?
I was banking on it. I was banking on you.
Yeah.
No, it looks.
Motion to accept.
I'll make that motion.
Question?
Moved by Councillor Schlossberger to accept the consolidated statement of operations for the month ended October 31st, 2018 as presented.
All in favor? Carried. Number 14, this is just information only about the new campground attendant. Marion.
Yeah, so at the end of the 2018 season, we sent out another request for proposals for a contract for 2019. We received 3 proposals, 3 very different proposals, but the one that we have selected is David Bergeron, who will be renting and living in the residence on site year-round, and is willing to be able to take bookings and manage campgrounds manage campers, year-round. So the estimated cost is there in your package, $22,000 plus the revenue offset from the rent, and that is all included in our 2019 draft budget. So.
So does that mean we can keep some sites open in the winter?
That means the site, there'll be,
Well, it's power,
there'll be
I guess.
winter power sites only.
Winter power sites only?
We do have a few sites that are designated for that.
Yeah.
Oh, perfect.
Which would be back to what we had years ago, where the campground was partially open for snowbirds coming
Catching
through.
the
Right,
snowbirds.
to
That's what I
stop
was
through on the
thinking.
way.
We used to be known as a stop for snowbirds.
Right.
Going through, so it's nice to see that capability brought back into our campground. Is there any other questions before, this is just information?
No.
Okay, we'll move on. Information brief, strategic plan report to council. That's pretty self-explanatory. Any questions arising out of it?
Well done.
Yeah, it helped me get updated and caught up on what was going on.
It's great.
Yeah.
Well, it is, and the council worked pretty hard on putting all the information in there, and Marion did a great job putting it together. Or Corrine, one of
Staff
the two.
does a great job.
Administration does a great job.
Great stuff.
No kidding, thank you, staff.
That's how it all works.
Okay, we'll take that for information. Information brief, council resolution status. Again, that's self-explanatory. Any questions out of there? Okay, last item is adoption of information items. Any questions out of the information items? Somebody could move to adopt the information.
I'll make that
item.
motion.
Councilor Schlossberger. Question, please.
Moved by Councillor Schlossberger to accept the information items as presented.
All in favor? Carried. And motion to go on camera, please.
I'll make the motion that we go in camera.
Councilor North, all in favor? Okay, if we could turn the camera off, please. And we'll take a smoke break if you.
Thank you.
Okay, motion to come out of in camera.
I'll make that motion.
Councilor Schlossberger's made a lot of motions tonight. All in favor? Carried. Okay, we need a motion on the fire agreement template and proceeding
I'll
with
make that motion to support the concept and approach recommended by the Regional Fire Services Study Steering Committee.
Question?
Moved by Councillor Schultz to support the concept and approach recommended by the Regional Fire Services Study Steering Committee, and further to support the approach and guiding principles for the remaining components of the intermunicipal collaboration framework.
Well, you're long-winded, Lise.
I know, it's a lot of words.
All in favor? Carried. Okay, then we know you're not adjourning yet, more to go. Okay, we need a motion to appoint Vern Lunan and Tom Poland to the museum board.
I'll make that motion.
Can we do them together? We can do them together.
So,
Separate.
Question, please.
Moved by Councillor Carlson to appoint Vern Lunan to the Clarsoma District Museum Board.
Then I'll make a motion to appoint Tom Poland to the museum board.
Question?
Moved by Councillor Zimmer to appoint Tom Boland to the Clarsoma District Museum Board.
All in favor? Carried. Craig? We are adjourned. Camera off, please.